Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to Glow in the Dark Cinema. And tonight we'll be taking a look at Dark and Stormy Night from, believe it or not, 2009. I know, me covering a modern movie, it's crazy around here. And definitely don't get used to it, because it certainly won't be happening again anytime soon. But Dark and Stormy Night is what some would call a parody film, but I consider to be a loving homage to the old dark house style of film. The murder mysteries and haunted house movies of the 1930s and 40s, only with a comedic slant. Written and directed by Larry Blameyer, whose name I mispronounced in the bumper of this video, Dark and Stormy Night tells the story of, amazingly enough, a dark and stormy night in the 1930s. A group of eccentric characters have gathered together in an isolated country estate for the reading of a will. And this gathering includes a big game hunter, a fancy lad, a cab driver, a psychic, and two rival reporters. Things start to go wrong with a number of minor inconveniences, including a serial killer in the area and the expected return of a centuries-old ghost. And then the murders begin. Not to mention a strange hooded figure wearing almost the exact same outfit I wear on most dates. Director Larry Blameyer should be no stranger to all you fine patrons of the snack bar. Saying I'm not in the modern movies is as much of an understatement as saying that the Roman was kind of a lady's ape, or that Betty Page looked kinda good in leopard print, or that the Angry Rando's kind of like the whine about my facial hair. But Blameyer is one of the few modern filmmakers that I am very fond of. The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra from 2001 is one of the best tributes to 1950s sci-fi ever made. Blameyer clearly has a love and understanding of these classic films, and that really shows in Dark and Stormy Night. This is gonna be a tough one. Dark and Stormy Night has a fantastic cast full of notable genre favorites, so I'll just touch on a few. First, I wanted to mention Daniel Roebuck as one of our reporters. Roebuck is a wonderful actor with a resume filled with genre pictures including Cave Girl, Bubba Hotep, John Dies at the End, and he played Grandpa Munster in the most recent Munsters film, a role in which he excelled in. But more importantly, Roebuck is one of us. He's a huge Monster Kid and sci-fi fan. At one point, he even ran a little museum for sci-fi and monster movie collectibles. Next, we have Blameyer himself as the obligatory stranded motorist. Blameyer is a gentleman of many talents, and not only is a director, screenplay writer, and actor, he's also a novelist and an artist. He did illustrations for the Galileo magazine of science and fiction from the 1970s, and really interesting, he contributed both writing and art to the They Came From series of tabletop role-playing games, and oh yeah, getting the talk TTRPGs again. And speaking of writing, Blameyer also released the novel Doc Armstrong, Suburb at the Edge of Never, which continues the adventures of his Paul Armstrong character from The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra and its sequel. Next up is genre favorite James Karen as one of our house guests. Karen did numerous genre pictures including Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster, the really underrated Time Walker, and the 1980s remake of Invaders from Mars, and he is exactly how you would expect him to be and want him to be in the film. And then we have Andrew Parks as another attendee. Parks is a film and TV actor who's probably best known, and for good reason, as Crowbar from The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra and its sequel. Truly one of the best aliens pretending to be human performances to ever grace a TV screen. And finally, and easily the most important of all, we have the legendary Bob Burns in a cameo reprising his famous role as Kogar the Ape. Did you really think I'd make it through an episode without some kind of reference to Bob Burns or a gorilla-suited actor? But folks seem to dig it. Matter of fact, my friend Bela was just saying something about me in regards to that the other day.
He's a beast, an animal, and someday I shall have to destroy him.
I may have misunderstood him the first time. And I know I already said finally, but another finally I wanted to mention is Brian Howe. He's just so good in this film. Here, just listen.
Trouble down there.
Like trouble.
Trouble's all right.
Don't mind it.
Not a bit, no.
It's not really an effects-heavy picture. It's more about mood and atmosphere. But since we are talking effects, technically, Bob Burns' Kogar suit counts. So I'm going to talk Bob and Kogar again. The head, hands, and feet of the suit were originally created by famed mask maker Don Post. The body portion of the suit was made by Bob's wife, Kathy. It was based on a clown suit because there were no gorilla patterns at the time. But not long before Bob got the role of Tracy on the Ghostbusters, a new head was built by Rick Baker. The title of the film is a reference to the often used phrase, "It was a dark and stormy night," which originates from the 1830 novel Paul Clifford by Edward Bulwer Lytton that tells the story of a man who lives a double life, both as a gentleman and a criminal. Kinda like your host, except replace criminal with donut bandit. Blattmeyer was such a big fan of old dark house movies that he wanted to throw every single possible element from those movies into this one movie. And whether or not it's a tribute or a spoof, some of the cast members have referred to the film as a spoof-mage. The car scene in the beginning of the film was actually carved out of wood by production designer Tony Tremblay, and the entire film was shot on sets. All 3 floors of the house were on the same level of the soundstage. Jennifer Blair's character of Billy Tuesday, the other reporter, was based on character actress Glenda Farrell of Mystery of the Wax Museum fame. And now, the best piece of trivia of all, more about Bob Burns. Burns visited the set of The Lost Skeleton Returns again. He heard that Blattmeyer was working on an old dark house picture. He asked if he had a gorilla in it, to which Larry replied, "I do now." Blattmeyer then wrote a part just for Bob and Kogar. The music of the film was by composer and conductor Christopher Caliendo. Caliendo doesn't really have any other credits in the world of sci-fi or genre pictures, but he sure did a great job with the score here, and said score was written before the movie was actually made, just going off notes from Blattmeyer. In total, there's about 20 minutes worth of music in the film, being that old dark house movies didn't have much music. Dark and Stormy Night has been released on DVD and crowd-funded Blu-ray. An interesting special feature, I assume on both, I know it's on the DVD, is the color version of the film. Neat, but I prefer the black and white. And a big special thanks to Larry Davis for donating this one to the snack bar. And I give this one 4 atomic popcorns out of 5. Once again, Larry Blattmeyer has crafted a wonderful little tribute to classic films. And that's all the time we have for this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic. And you should probably also hit those notification things, because I hear everyone else talking about that, and I've never once asked people to do that, so you should do that. It would be neato.